Hey guys, my name is attorney Walter Rudolph Hnot III, and I'm sorry it took us a little bit of time to go ahead and get started running. The kicker was I started up my laptop, which I haven't been using a lot because I've been using mostly the 12-core Mac Pro. And the basic function was that I don't use the laptop that much because I'm not going to offices. However, on the week of the 15th, being this upcoming Monday, of June, I will be going back to offices for the first time to enjoy in the coronavirus hopping and skipping to not get sick. So that's what's going to be happening with that. I see people are joining in right now, which is really cool. I'm going to use this, I'm in my squeaky chair. I'm going to use this opportunity to talk about some of the basic sponsors that we do have. Today's sponsored soap from the wonderful unofficial sponsor is Beaver Moon Soap, which is orange patchouli. I guess, yeah, there you go. Boom. The other thing I want to go ahead and show you real quick is another company that I really like, which is called Second Wave Masks, which is hyper appropriate considering what's going on and how everything is going. They're sewn really well. And the other thing is now they have these little metal bands in them up here so that you can basically put them in. Anyway, they're called Second Wave Masks, and the website for that is going to be coming up in the not too distant future. The other official sponsor that I want to go through really quickly is a company that I'm starting, which is basically called spaceconstitution.com. And spaceconstitution.com is essentially so that all people, not just Americans, but all countries, all citizens can go ahead and create the first human race Declaration of Independence that will hopefully be used by corporations, third-party existing corporations, when they go and create a sovereign nation on a foreign planet. They'll actually be able to go ahead and use the writings that we've created for them. Why? Because basically, if we create the Constitution, we can argue on our behalf to have that Constitution. I've come up with about 50 freedoms so far, many of which we don't get to have, will shape the future sovereign nations that are created by these space companies in different space environments, including not only planets, but also space stations that are created by these third-party companies, kind of like Blue Origin or, essentially Elon with SpaceX and things like that. One thing I want to show you is that I do want to show you the logo that I ultimately ended up with. I created it piece by piece. My iPad has a little bit, it needs a new glass because it got broken, but here is the future Space Constitution logo. So there you go. Pretty cool. I think so anyway. I made it, but there is there's the logo. All right. Anyways, let's go ahead and begin. We're going to get straight to the details. I am going to put into the dialog box the phone number for you guys to call so that you can ask me whatever questions you like. Traditionally, the way we set it up is to essentially go ahead and only do hearing questions and run hearing questions. But frankly, it's 8 to 10 Thursday night. It's your time. So if you guys want to call in and ask me whatever questions you want, that's the phone number to do it. Now, while we're waiting, I want to go through some stuff with you really quickly. Okay. There is something going on in the environment of Social Security disability law that is becoming rampant and horrible and bad. So don't fall for this crap. It's so bad that the SSA has put on their envelopes, not all of them, but a lot of them, that there's a scam alert going on. And I want to read for you what the scam is so that you understand what it is. And then I want to tell you in detail specific situations that are coming up based upon these scams occurring in the market. So the SSA's actual letter will state for their scams, scammers are pretending to be government employees. They may threaten you and may demand immediate payment to avoid arrest or other legal action. Do not be fooled. If you receive a suspicious call, hang up. Do not give them money or personal information. Report the scam at oig.ssa.gov. All right, I want to tell you about this. Many of my claimants are getting phone calls from people who claim they're from the Social Security Administration, and that basically they missed an appointment and now they basically have an overpayment where they owe money. Now, is this a real thing that can occur? It actually is a real thing that can occur. I'll wait until it pops back. 1, 2, 3, 4, and hopefully, there we go. Now we're back. So what is the classic scam that you will see going on with Social Security benefits right now? So there's companies that usually, they won't tell you their actual company name. They'll tell you if they're from the and then they'll slip it as a phishing scam that will basically obtain your Social Security number, name, address, and stuff like that. And as long as they have that, they can open up credit cards, bank accounts, loans, VA loans, all that stuff. And that's why it's so valuable, because they get a quick, $10,000 quick cash loan out of one company who's just disperse the funds, and now that's sitting on your actual, TransUnion based credit. So that's why this is bad. It's also bad because they're redirecting basically your monthly check, your forward pay, to a new address, which is scary because that new address is not always traceable. So let me give you an example of what happens. One of my claimants called me and said, I don't know if it was you. I thought it was you calling, but then I was talking to them and I realized that it wasn't you. And, disability resolution, the law firm. And what happened was they were feeding information to this other law firm. Sorry, it wasn't a law firm. It was just a scam group. The problem with it is that basically they fed information that is now on the wide web. Well, it's not on the wide web, it's on the dark web. But the bottom line is they sell that information to other people who go ahead and convert it into funds by taking out loans in, different situations. So we had to report it, and I want to report the scam to oig.ssa.gov. It kind of looks like this. I printed it out for you guys. But basically what it comes out to is, and the official, just so you know, the URL is oig/ssa.gov/report or oig.ssa.gov/report. And that's how you can report fraudulent activity. So if you're receiving benefits, worry because they're going to try and take benefits from you by redirecting your check or claiming that you have something where you owe them money. They're not from the SSA. Just be aware. The SSA will never ask you for your social security number to prove who you are. Law firms will never ask you for your full social security number. They only ask for the last four. Okay. And usually when I ask for the last four of a social security number, the whole reason I'm doing that is to basically go ahead and just, be able to look up the claim where I'll search it in there. Okay. So here's what you need to know. I'm waiting for an individual to pop on too, because I was supposed to go through specifically what happened with his payments. So I'm waiting to see him texting over here. I'm not going to say his name, but then I'll go ahead and go through the details. What I want to talk about with you today has to do with ways to kill credibility. Ways to kill credibility specifically when it comes to being in a hearing and giving testimony. We're going to be going through essentially what I made some videos about, which are the top 10 ways to kill your credibility while you're in front of that administrative law judge. Let's go ahead and begin. The first thing you need to watch out for is basically lying about drugs. Now, a lot of you guys are saying, oh, well, I don't lie about drugs. It's not a problem, yada, yada, yada. The way they always catch you is that in your record, the medical field will have doctors that collect facts from you, right? Because facts equate to information that combined with the machine output. You went to the doctor on this day, you had treatment. There's a treatment day. And we know 2 weeks before that, 14 days, somewhere around there, you utilize drugs. So what happens is the judge, and I'm going to walk you through exactly what the judges do when they look at a claim, just so you can understand and foresee how this all wraps up together. A judge, when they sit down to, and not every judge, but this is how they usually do it. They'll sit down in their chair and computer, right? So classic spiel, you've got one computer screen, you got two computer screens. They're set up instead of like this, that you can view the paperwork. So they sit down in front of the computer, right? And they're looking at the stuff in the file. The first thing they're usually going to go to is to look at the date last insured. If it's a Title II, Title 16, then they're going to go down to what's called the DDS DDE. The DDS DDE is basically a document in the A folder, and the A folder is called the MDI. Okay, so what is the DDS DDE? So the thing just came back. What is the DDS DDE MDI? The medically determinable impairment. What is MDI, medically determinable impairment? That's where they're basically saying whether or not you have an impairment that is severe or not severe. So the judge is going to go, boom, straight to that. This claim is about joint dysfunction. Let's say affective disorders, bipolar, depression, anxiety, PTSD, cardiac issue, whatever. The claim, the judge will immediately go to that DDS, DDE, MDI paperwork, and they'll look, and that'll tell them right then and there exactly what the claim is about. Real quick, real fast. They're using all the work that was done ahead of time to see their summary. Then what the judge will usually do is they'll start to pull up the medical documentation. Then what they do is they go look at the work history. They go and look at the IRS work history to see, and it comes in these types of documents. Summary earnings query. Summary earnings query is basically a quick by the year how much you earned, right? That just gives them a quick, is there past relevant work? Then they go to what's called the detailed earnings query. The detailed earnings query tells them about basically where you worked and how much you earned at each place during each year. So summary earnings query told them which years you made what. Detailed earnings query tells the judge specifically about where you worked before the hearing. Document, right? Then we get to the certified earnings query. The certified earnings query is about how many quarters of coverage you earned in those particular years. And it sometimes has more additional job information. Then they get to what's called the new hire query. The new hire query is a document that basically goes through what jobs you've had within the past couple of years, right? Because a lot of the places that you'll work, they'll go ahead and they'll tell the SSA through the IRS earnings, because they'll report their earnings quarterly through a payroll service like, ADP or whatever. And that payroll service will go ahead and quarterly report whatever earnings that they paid out for individuals. So let's go through that again. The judge, when they're looking at a claim and they sit down, they're like, oh, I've got this hearing in 15 minutes, or I've got this hearing in 5 minutes, whatever. This is how they do it. This is how they look at the claim to figure out where they want to, what they believe, what they think. Is this a good claim? Is it a bad claim? Is this a liar? Is this not a liar? Stuff like that. First thing they do is they sit down, they go into the EREE folder, and they look up at the top. Types of claims. Title 2, Title 16. Title 2 means SSDI. Title 16 means SSI claim. Then they go and look at the date last insured, DLI. Date last insured, they have to be able to, the claimant has to be able to prove the day before that DLI that they were disabled so that they can go into SSDI benefits. But if that DLI is like 5-6 years back in time from their initial filing date, or even 2 or 3 years, past 17 months from their initial filing date, that it ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. So then SSDI claim dies and the Title 16 SSI claim continues. So what does that mean? They look at it and they go, okay, cool. Is this going to be an SSDI claim? Is this going to be an SSI claim? Now, the smart thing that most attorneys do is they'll file concurrently, which means both claims, so that when it's time to do payout, there's months that don't count at the very beginning for SSDI, but do count for SSI. So mathematically, if you file for both, you might get additional SSI months that combine together with the SSDI months. Just something to keep in mind. That's how that works. All right, so the judge looks at this, and then the judge is like, okay, I understand what's going on here. Then the judge will go to the A folder, right, and go to the DDS, Disability Determination Services. Those are the people that adjudicated your claim, the baby judges, at the initial filing level or the reconsideration level, right? There's usually 2 of them in there that you can grab. I'm just checking. Okay, so it looks like a bunch of it is lagging. Give me a second. I'm going to go ahead and turn off some of the things while I'm kind of explaining to you what's going on. Okay, good. Detection now. 1 second. I'm just logging in to make sure I get stuff all right so we have a better connection. Okay, cool. So here's what you need to know. What does this DDS document have in it? Well, those DDS people, they were the initial baby judges. And these initial baby judges, they basically did all this work. They did this whole big write-up. They did this whole big thing where they were explaining, okay, well, he went to this doctor on this time. He went to this doctor on that time. I spoke to the claimant. I spoke to the representative. These DDS reps, they log all that stuff. So the judge knows to go look at that to get a quick glance as to what the claim is like, what's going on in it. Specifically, the judge is going right to the DDS, DDE, that's what the document is called, the DDE, MDI. The MDI stands for medically determinable impairment. So what is the medically determinable impairment? The medically determinable impairment is basically where they're doing a step 2 of the 5-step sequential process. They're looking at element 2, right here, element 2, to figure out whether or not an impairment, right, is severe or not. So the DDS reps give you a beautiful little summary as to whether or not you have severe or non-severe impairments. Those are impairments that have lasted 12 months or longer. So when the judge looks at that at this point, the judge knows, boom, severe impairment, non-severe impairment, non-severe impairment, non-severe impairment. Here's what you need to know. They list them as primary, secondary, and others. Those are all the other ones. The judge usually is thinking in his head, all right, I'm going to look at the primary and the secondary and see if there's evidence to show that basically these impairments are severe enough to go ahead and push the claim through. Some judges will look at the primary, secondary, and another of those impairments that you are claiming, okay? So what does this realistically mean? It means that the judge now knows exactly which impairments you're claiming. He knows which ones have lasted 12 months or longer. Now the judge is going to go ahead and look at basically, your medical documentation. So when we started this with the live session, I started late. Sorry about that. But what I was getting at was, what is the number one thing you can do to really hurt your claim when you're talking in front of that administrative law judge? Like the number one thing. And I said, it's lying about drug use. Now, here's the thing. Remember how we talked about, okay, we looked at the financials, what the IRS sent. We looked at what the MDI was by DDS. We looked at the top of the form of the hearing office setup. We looked at all that stuff. Now the judge is going to look at what the facts were of the claim in the medical evidence. So what that means is the judge will go ahead and read the facts section. The facts section is basically, of your medical documentation where the doctor was sitting there nonchalantly listening to you and absorbing information. And then the doctor was creating a couple of paragraphs about that information. Now, most of the time when you guys sit with your doctor, you just spew out information, right? And you're thinking, okay, doctor-client privilege, everything's cool. All the bad things are going to be forgotten. All the bad jokes I made about things I'm doing with drugs and alcohol and tobacco and yada, yada, he's not going to put that stuff in. The number one thing that gets put in is that stuff. And the reason why is that their ability to go ahead as a doctor to treat you is relevant to how you use alcohol, how you use drugs, how you use tobacco, how you arrived to the office today, how you did all these different functions. So what you have to keep in mind is all the negative things that you told your doctor are right in that little fact pattern before the doctor even gets to the real analysis of your claim. And this is how medical evidence works, just so you understand. There's the collection of evidence. That's where they put you on a machine and it outputs information. That's where you tell them stuff. That's the facts of what's going on in your life. And then down here, there's the analysis of all of that evidence, right? So we got stuff is coming in. We got machine outputs, what you're telling the doctor, and then boom, we get to here. And that's the analysis of that evidence, right? What it all means together, what the totality of all that stuff is. And then we get to the next level down. And the next level down is basically the diagnostic impression. It's the summary as to what impairments you have based upon that information. Okay. So the judge is usually very interested in two things at first. The first thing, what's in the facts? That tells the judge the history of the bad things that you're doing. For example, like, how you smoke a pack of cigarettes a day, or for example, how you, constantly will, do mixtures of your medication that's prescribed to you in a negative way or whatever. Then the judge will go and look at the diagnostic impression and see, okay, boom, 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 boom. Here's the impairments. There's some new ones here. I've got to keep these in mind. Looks like they had some problems. Okay, got it. Then the judge, if there's a potential of a listing level analysis, then the judge will go ahead and basically then the judge will go ahead and basically know and be able to see, okay, so you had an FEV of this for a COPD-based issue. And because you have an FEV of this for a COPD issue, then basically we know whether or not you meet the listing conditions. Now, some of you guys don't know what listings are. Simple explanation is this. There's a giant list, and that giant list represents predefined disabilities. And if you meet the prerequisites for that criteria, for those impairments, then you can be found disabled at element 3. Pretty cool. Now, with that said, okay, you have to understand this. That's the logic of what the judge goes through to figure out if this is a valid claim. But now the most important part, the part where you guys screw it up sometimes, gets to your testimony. So all of that was just the intro, what the judge does before the judge really even has you come in. Now, we're in Corona time, so you're not seeing the parts where, somebody will walk out through the hallway and, you're like, okay, well, they were just with your judge, right? And then you're sitting there, you're like, dude, I've been sitting here for 15 minutes. The reason you're sitting for 15 minutes in between when the prior claimant came out and when you go in is because, basically, the judge is doing that quick review of your file. And that's what that quick review consists of, okay? Now, I'll do a summary. What types of claims are they? DLI analysis, work history analysis, DDS MDI analysis, which impairments are severe, medical evidence, specifically as to what the facts say, what the diagnostic impression says, are there any listing-based reviews that I need in order to meet a listing in the analysis section or the outputs from the machines. That's what they do. That's their whole shebang before they basically go ahead and sit there and bring you in. Then they bring you in. You get in there, right? There's tissues in front of your table. There's, water usually there. So basically, those are your only two amenities. You sit in the spot where there's no computer. Your attorney sits in the spot where there is a computer. What happens then is you begin your testimony after the judge does some basic introductory stuff. So let's talk about the main ways that the judge will go ahead and, let's call it like it is, ask you questions about things that are relevant that could screw up your entire claim. Number one thing, like I said, is drugs. And I'm just going to go through them. I'm going to summarize so you guys know them right off the bat. Lying about drugs, lying about alcohol, lying about smoking, lying about where you live, lying about who helps you. That's number 5. Lying about where you were, right? So, were you out of the state? Were you out of the county? Were you out of the country? How did you get there? Did you fly? Did you travel? Did you drive? Did you ride a motorcycle, a bicycle? How long can you sit? All that stuff. Then we get to types of hobbies you enjoy. That can hurt your testimony. Pets and their upkeep. That can hurt your testimony. Lying about your medications. That hurts your testimony. And then lying about your car and transportation. That hurts your testimony. All right. These things, how does the judge usually find out about whether or not you're lying about these things? Drugs, alcohol, tobacco, stuff like that. It's usually in the fact portion of what the medical physician, your physician, the SSA's physician, wrote down. Do those medical physicians usually get it all right? Not even close. That's a main area where you can actually have things overturned for errors in the facts. So what does that mean? It means that basically you can go ahead and bet your bottom dollar that if you're using drugs and you go to the judge and you say, oh, I haven't used drugs in 2 years, and you have, and you went to the hospital and you told a doctor about it, guess what? The judge is going to nail you on that. Oh, I don't smoke anymore. I don't smoke. I stopped 6 months ago. But you went to the doctor and the doctor asked you about how much you're smoking. You're not going to lie to the doctor, right? Boom. The judge can see it right there. Another classic one. Let's say, for example, you have a car. Oh, I'm sleeping in my car, right? They pull up what kind of car is it? It's this car. What color is it? It's this color. Cool. They pull up the address where you're supposedly not living, but you're having things mailed. That's a friend's address. And your car's been parked there, right? And it's got leaves on top of it, right? Or something like that, a Google Map pic. These are all things that the judges can use to gauge whether or not you're telling the truth. Why is it important to tell the truth? Well, to be frank with you guys, the bottom line is a judge would rather approve somebody who levels with them and then sets them up with the payee because they can't handle the funds because of drug abuse, alcohol abuse, tobacco abuse. Okay, guys, so oh, I just realized that I can't connect to the chat. I just assumed nobody was chatting. Tons of people are chatting. Sorry, guys. Let me go up here and see what's going on. Okay, so the guy, I'm not going to say his name, but he's talking about food. All right, so, okay, just a moment. We need to go through something real quick. I'm not going to use figures. I'm going to make up figures so that we can address this. There's somebody in the chat who recently was found disabled, and I'm super happy for that person because this person has actually been with me in the very beginning of this whole process related to, doing these live videos. So that person is super important to me. Let's go ahead and go through this real quick. Let's say that this individual won their benefits, right? And they were talking about the distribution of funds to that person. The issue is that the person received a letter that specifically, let me see which one it was about. Let me see if I have the head page. I don't have the head page. Okay, he received a letter about, it looks like his SSDI benefits. When they pay out to a person, they break it into the two programs because sometimes a person is found disabled for both SSDI and SSI. And some months of their back pay are attributed to SSI, and some months of their back pay are attributed to SSDI. And what happens is the only main thing that they have to look at, well, two things is, okay, if it was an SSDI situation, do we withhold funds because they didn't meet certain financial requirements for those months when they would be getting back pay, right? So that's what the SSA person at the local FO, because that's where they handle SSI distributions for back pay. They have payment centers specifically for SSDI, which are like national payment centers, but for SSI, it's specific to the field office. So what happens is some benefits for SSDI, your back pay benefits, belong to this program, some belong to SSI. Now, you guys know the rules for SSI and SSDI. For SSI, you don't count the first month of when you filed and the last month of when you're found disabled. Okay? My chair's, I swear it's going to break and I'm going to die. For SSDI, you don't count the first 5 months and the month in which you're found disabled. Now, let's say that you applied for both. And if you didn't have an attorney, you probably didn't take advantage of retroactive benefits, which sucks, but it is what it is. It's usually how people lose a couple of grand out of money they could have gotten, which is ironic because that usually just goes to the attorney anyways. But the bottom line is 5 months for SSDI and the month you're found disabled don't count. SSI, the month you're found disabled and the month you start, right? The whole application process don't count. So if you applied concurrently and you were given your alleged onset date of when you became disabled under their rules as the date that you filed. So the day you filed, that's when they found you disabled from, right? Okay. So what that means is that if the day you file, your protective filing date, your PFD, is the date that they're claiming you became disabled on under their rules, that means for SSDI, they don't count the first 5 of those months for back pay calculation purposes, or the month you're found disabled, which is more like that, right? Because you had to wait for them to do that for a hearing. If it's like you got found, disabled in the initial filing process, then this might be doing this, at the initial filing level. So what that means is that for 5 months, it doesn't count for SSDI. You don't get to count those months, but you also applied for SSI, which means that 1 month doesn't count, but then you have 4 other months. Well, I have no idea how many times it went up and down there, but you have 4 other months in here that do count for SSI calculation purposes. There also might be other amounts. There's many options here, but the bottom line is you would get a notification from them where your total back pay that's due to you could be 20 grand. And the SSDI portion of that back pay could be, for example, let's say 15 grand. And 5 grand of that was for the SSI benefits. So what that means is that when they go distribute, you had an attorney that goes to the attorney. So that's, just remember, 25K to the attorney, which means if 20K, you're losing, 25%, which means 5K goes to the attorney. But let's say you didn't have an attorney to make it simple for calculation purposes. Let's be greedy, right? Haha. All right. Here's how it works. Your SSDI benefits get released to you all at once. Your SSDI benefits for back pay get released to you all at once. However, your SSI benefits, they have to do a further review to see if you meet the financial requisites, and then they only pay you they only pay you 3 months worth of your SSI back pay. Only 3 months worth of your SSI back pay, with the first payout of back pay to you. And then 6 months later, they pay out another 3 months worth. And then 6 months after that, they pay you the remainder of your back pay so that you can go ahead and have the rest of your SSI back pay. So SSDI back pay, you get it all right up front. That's good because you paid into the system. SSI back pay, they're trying to bleed slower. So they pay it out at 6-month intervals. First 6 months are 3 checks worth. Next 6 months, they're 3 checks worth. And then the final one is the rest of your benefits. So what that means is, for the person who contacted me about this, and we were supposed to do it last week, but something happened. What that means is that, essentially, you're going to get all your SSDI back pay right up front. They're going to withhold the rest of your SSI back pay and only pay you 3 months worth. Now, I know you're sitting there going, well, that's not fair. It is fair because nobody paid into that system. It's coming from general taxes, right? That's not fair. Or is it fair? It doesn't matter. Now, let me tell you how to get around it, because that's why you're all sitting here wondering what the deal is. The way you get around that is that you basically go find something expensive That is the remainder of the SSI back pay benefits that you want to buy. And you print it out so that it shows the price of it. And then from there, you go ahead and basically go to you go to the local field office and you let them know, I need an emergency allowance release of funds. And then they will usually release the remainder of those funds that are your SSI back pay funds, so that you get the rest of your SSI back pay funds around the same time as you get all of your SSDI back pay funds. And that is why 25% goes to the attorney, a chunk goes to SSDI benefits for back pay that you get right away. And if your attorney was smart, they probably got you some retroactive benefits. And then on top of that, your SSI benefits, you have to show them something you need, like transportation, such as a car or an RV or whatever, to be able to show that you should get an emergency release of funds to have them. That was the thing that was sent to me, and that's why those funds are being withheld, even though your larger amount of back pay is that bigger number. So that's how that works, okay? All right, let me scroll all the way up and see specifically what's going on here. Good. Second wave masks, excellent. They're amazing. They're really great, guys. If you want to, I'm going to be helping with building the website for that company, and I'm really excited about it because the product is incredible. Let me just scroll through here real quick. Space Force, very nice. Spock, thank you for all your suggestions. I've used a bunch of them in here, and like you're going to get an honorary title when I build the blog platform. So you're going to get like moderator status or something. I don't know yet, but we're going to set you up on there. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, I need to find my hit. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, do I represent clients in California? I don't represent clients in California. I know a lot of big box firms do that, and they'll just basically, they'll basically fire the claimant when they get close to the hearing, because then they're not physically going to actually go to the hearing in person. And then they fire the claimant and say, oh, too bad, we can't represent you, blah, blah, blah. They send out one of those sad, pathetic letters. I don't do that. If you're in the area that I can drive to do the hearing and I feel like it's a good claim, I'll represent you. But if and I got to wait because it says, please wait while we try. Okay, cool. Reconnected. So, Jimmy, what that means is that basically, should I call to see if they have everything they need? So if a medical decision is made, then there's only the technical denial options or any, if there's any penal or vocational things that they need to look at. But usually the medical decision is like the very final thing that they do. And what you're going to get is a letter that says either we've reviewed your claim, blah, 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 and we found you disabled on this date, or you'll get a letter that says, we took a look at this and we found that you're not disabled under the rules, yada, yada, yada. So all that means is that they've made a medical decision. That doesn't mean that you've de facto been found disabled. But it does mean within the next 5 to 7 days, you're going to get a letter that tells you either or. And if you can log into your system, you can usually see the letter before it actually gets sent to you via mail. Let's see. The SSCE said my condition was severe. Now be careful, Tom Jones, with SS consultative examination, ME medical experts. They can say your condition was severe to your face, but what they usually do is they write down moderate to severe. And that's what sucks about it. And judges don't always stand by their medical experts when it says, when it says severe. What you really want to do is get a copy of it and see how they limited in their little paragraph what their RFC was, the residual functional capacity section, because that'll talk about how much you can lift, how far you can walk, what you can do like with mental tasks, because if that restricts your abilities to do stuff more so than lighter sedentary work, then you're pretty much golden. Have CE exams started back? Yeah, so LA Cooper, CE exams started being scheduled, at least in my area, which means they're pretty much getting scheduled in most areas except for the hard hit areas, on Monday. Monday was a day. I have no idea what day it was. Let's pull up the calendar, which just quit on its own self. So let's see, today's the 11th. So 11, 10, 9, 8. So on the 8th, that's how attorneys, by the way, count. On the 8th, basically CEs for physical have started. Now, the mental ones, they're still doing those by phone, which means that if you have a video phone, you can do it, but the DDS rep has to read you a disclaimer before they actually do that. So mental CEs have been going on for weeks now, so long as you have a phone and the DDS rep reads you a disclaimer. The physical CEs just started to set appointments, which means that it's going to be like 3 to 4 weeks before people are even really seeing them on Monday. And remember, they are scheduling hearings right now through September, a little bit of August, very end of August, but through September. And the rumor is, what they were telling me is that they're doing October as well. And the reason why is that most of these judges are older people, and for them to have a bunch of judges get sick would destroy the program. They'd be calling me to become a judge, which I'm not opposed to, but for right now, I got to pay off my student loans. Although they make good money. They make really good money to do that job. I saw the little chart that they have. They make good money. So, and if I work for them, my student loans after so many years would be forgiven. So I'd be able to, not have to pay them back once I hit like 45, as opposed to being 57 when I'm supposed to be able to pay them all off. Yay. Okay. I'm having a phone hearing, so I'm typing out a lot of things so I can read them during the hearing so I won't forget. All right. Here are the things you need for your phone hearing. Judges may or may not allow you to have a piece of paper with you, but they'll tell you ahead of time. What they're mostly saying right now is that you're not allowed to receive assistance with your testimony, like texts from people, somebody's listening in and writing you notes or whatever. But they don't specify that you can't have a piece of paper that has your top 5 impairments, what medications you're taking, what are they for, what side effects you get, and other things that are important to your claim. If you want me to give you a list of them, just type it in there at the bottom. Once I get to the bottom, I'll go through the list. Oh, we'll keep up. Okay, good. That's good, Tom. Good. How quickly see a report from my doctor? Okay, so Tom, with your CE report, here's what you're going to want to look at. First, I don't know if it's a mental or if it's a physical CE. So ultimately, you want to look at the diagnostic impression. That's the bullet point. What specifically you have to look at, which is that sometimes these DDS reps, you have a CE or whatever, they won't send the CEME, consultative examination medical expert. They won't send them the medical documentation that they have on file, which means the doctor is spitballing this whole thing to see what he thinks you might have or what you might not have or yada, yada, yada. So what that means is that basically it's a situation where, that doctor is saying, per the report of the claimant, per the report of the claimant, they have depression, per the report of the claimant, they have PTSD from seeing their parents killed, per the report of the claimant, yada, yada, yada. And so what that means is that basically the doctor can't give a definitive stance because he has no historical reference as to what your medical documentation, what your prior physicians have said. So that really weakens the strength and weight of the evidence of those CEs, which is sometimes a good thing, sometimes a bad thing. It's a good thing when your doctors prior to him or her have said, oh, this is really bad, really severe, yada, yada, so that the CEME, the consultative examination medical expert, can just copy paste and say severity is this bad. It's sometimes a bad thing because basically the doctor is now, going through this thing, trying to figure out what the heck is wrong with you, what are all the problems with you, and they're going to miss a lot of things because if you have a history of the past 3 years doing this stuff and the medical records aren't provided to that medical expert that the SSA sends you to, then that doctor is really starting like ab initio with no direct contact as to what's wrong with you. So it becomes a per the claimant, which means the claimant told me this, which means I have no idea if it's really this bad situation. That means all of the, Baker Acts aren't in there. That means all those things about, essentially, where you had to have an MRI and a surgery and an X-ray and those aren't in there. So that could really hurt the claim. So when a DDS rep doesn't send your medical records, what I send to the judges, I want to go ahead and subpoena the medical expert to be present for the hearing. And also, I would like a copy of all of the medical records supplied to the medical expert ahead of time. Those are the things that I basically motion for. Okay, so let's go to the next thing. My doctor said mine was the worst CE she'd ever seen or the best in my case for my hearing. Cool. Tom, if you want to send me, oh, I forgot the biggest part of this. There you go. So the thing you're looking for at the bottom of the CE, and sometimes right after the diagnostic impression, which are the bullet points, is a residual functional capacity analysis. And that's basically the analysis that goes through what you could do on a physical level. How long you could stand, how long you could sit, how long you could, or how far you could walk, how much you can lift. Sit, stand, walk, these are all important for what's called a vocational allowance. That's where the judge approves you because you can't work. So let's talk about that real quick. What does that mean? It means that, and a lot of you guys don't realize all this stuff, this is complicated stuff too. And I'm trying to simplify it, but it's tough. But what it means is that if you get a chance, go look up what the definitions are for sedentary and light work, because all these jobs that they have fit into categories. Right? Sedentary, light, medium, heavy, very heavy. But we don't give a crap about those. We care about basically sedentary or light. Sedentary again, or light jobs. Because if you can't do sedentary or light jobs, then you'll get a vocational allowance. And that's what you want. Okay, so let's see. Appealed 3 times federal court. Damn. So Dennis, so here's what that means to most of you guys if you don't know what that means. Appealed 3 times to federal court. He either means he was appealed to district court and then remanded, or appealed to district, or appealed through appeals council to district, then appealed through district to circuit, and then potentially appealed from circuit to Supreme, or he's been appealed up and remanded down a bunch of times. So what that means is he's got the potential of a massive house buying amount of back pay coming his way. So Dennis, have fun. Make sure to correct your doctor if they try to answer a question for you, like your meds giving you temporary relief, the answer would be no. Give me mild relief. Yeah, so Dr. Spock is putting in a really important thing. Doctors, especially medical experts on behalf of the SSA, have a tendency, a leading question is where the answer is in the initial question. So once again, what is a leading question? The leading question is where the answer is in the initial question. So the doctor says to you, do your medications, for example, give you temporary relief, right? So that would be an example of a leading question, because they're giving you the potential answer in the question. What they should have asked you was, do your medications relieve your pain? Not, does it give you temporary relief? Not, does it relieve your pain within an hour or two? Not, does it work for the full prescribed period? Does your medication relieve your pain? That is that's not a leading question, so that's what they should do, but there's no attorney sitting there with the doctors, and the doctors are just trying to prompt you to hurry up so they can get to the next claimant. So that's why every leading question is a question that they usually ask. Okay. Still waiting for a new hearing. Yeah, so Dennis, you can always call me up if you want. Whatchamacallit, here's the phone number, and I can run hearing questions with you, and I can kind of prep you on them. But that's, if you want to. I don't know if I missed any calls. I haven't missed any calls yet. I know some people get nervous about calling me, which is fine. It's no biggie. So let's see. I got regular drug tests, and I'm clean. Cool. I smoke weed. Should I be honest and tell the judge if I'm asked? Okay, so as an attorney, Bree, I always have to tell you that you have to tell the truth, right? Now, if this is a deal where, and I'm going to say this, you have to tell the truth. If you, so there's smokers of weed and then there's smokers of weed. Some smokers of weed smoke once a year. Some smokers of weed, when you walk by where they live, you can tell it's Friday. That's how you know. And in your medical records, and this is one of those things, I just did a video on this just recently. If you don't have a green card, like a medical green card, a medical marijuana green card, then if you smoke marijuana, you probably at some point told a doctor that it's one of these great medications that calms you down and keeps you going straight forward and yada, yada, yada. So in that regard, you're not going to get away from the judge asking you about it. What the question is then going to become one of those things of the judge will say, hey, when was the last time you smoked marijuana? So now the tougher judges will say, well, you didn't have a medical marijuana card 2 years ago when you were smoking. And they'll use that to cut off your back pay for that year because they'll claim that your marijuana was a material cause to creating your impairment so that you couldn't work. Sounds crappy? It is crappy. Um, Older judges tend to be more anti-marijuana. Younger judges tend to be more don't care as much about marijuana. But remember, they have to fit this whole thing within a system. So, I tried to answer that. You have to tell the truth. Make sure you add some emotion in your voice when describing the incident. Yeah, that's correct. So Dr. Spock, the only thing I would add to what he said there is, yes, adding emotional connection based upon your vocal characteristics, such as your diction and syntax, is important when describing to the judge what caused your PTSD. Also, you better have a damn good story that's going to approach, that you can go ahead and use with the judge, that's humanistic, that the judge can attach to. Something like, somebody was, killed in front of you, or you were in a really tough situation and something happened and you weren't the same since then. But make sure you have a good story to tell so that the judge can understand it. A lot of people go in there and wing it. Winging it is not the way to win disability benefits. All right. Yeah, so everyone with a hearing coming up, go check out those top 50 trick ALJ trick questions. I have another 100 of them on this phone. I just haven't had a chance because of what's been going on in my life to go ahead and record all those. So we're going to go to the next one. For 2 years, and I have a lawyer. Cool. So Bree, here's the thing. When you say therapy, there's outpatient therapy and inpatient therapy. And remember that if you're just going to outpatient and getting like more medication and doing a quick med check, that is not what the judge is looking for severe mental PTSD-based impairment. What they're looking for is like Baker Act, suicidal ideation, homicidal intent, hallucinations. And remember, PTSD comes in the form of two things, which is when you're asleep, you have nightmares coming back over and over. And when you're awake, you have flashbacks of that thing coming over and over. So for severity, they're looking for like inpatient, and they're looking for like, a judge had to step in, or the police had to step in, or step in. So they're looking for, high level interaction with your PTSD that's been caused by it. Do you have your medical marijuana card? Yeah. So Bree, go get a medical marijuana card. It's a money game. That's all it is right now. Okay. So let's see. Yay for that person. Okay. Determine your back pay if you know your lifetime income. So is there a way to determine your back pay? Yeah, but you still need to know the number that which you're supposed to be paid per month. So for SSI benefits, the maximum amount you can get per month is $783 for this year. And then each year you go back, it's usually a little bit less because of COLA, cost of living adjustment. For SSDI, it's anywhere from $0 to like, almost $3,000. So basically what you need to keep in mind is that just call the local field office, ask them, what would I get if I went on to retirement kind of deal? And then they use that as your general figure. Then what you're going to do is you're going to look at your claim and say, okay, am I eligible to get retroactive benefits? How much back pay benefits do I think I'm going to get? And how much forward pay benefits do I think I'm going to get? So if you're on SSDI, you can start to play with retroactive benefits. You're not going to know what those are, so look up a video on them. For back pay benefits, that's from when you filed and when you're found disabled. For SSDI, you don't count the first 5 months and the last month you're found disabled. For SSI, you don't count the first month and the month you're found disabled. So just count up those months in between and then multiply that by that number. Realize it might be a little less, realize it might be a little bit more, but you're getting a general idea as to what it would be. Okay, and remember, attorney is 25% from that. Okay, so my therapist and my psychiatrist faxed documentation over about my PTSD. Cool beans. I talked to my lawyer about the 1/3 reduction rule for SSI. He said to tell them I owe money for living with my sister. All right, so Tom, you got to email me later or whatever. I don't know. Not tonight. I'm not going to do it tonight. I'm tired. But you got to email me, and I will send you a copy of a loan agreement that is within their rules and regulations that you can have with your sister. If you just tell them, right, that, oh, I owe my sister money, that ain't going to cut it, buddy. You have to have a loan agreement with them for them not to use the 1/3 reduction rule on you. Your attorney should have supplied you with basically a loan agreement that you could sign with her when you initially filed. I'm sorry, but for those months in between then and now, basically they're going to try and use the 1/3 reduction rule on your back pay. It sucks, I know. But going forward, you still need that loan agreement because they're going to try and use that 1/3 reduction rule going forward. All right. Whoa, everything just flashed forward. Hold on, I'll see. All right, I have no idea where I was on all these things. Let me see if I can scroll up real quick. Okay, cool. Okay, so when in doubt, always go with the local attorney, not a big box firm. Cool. All right, Dr. Spot, if one of y'all has a hearing coming up, then call in. It'll be good practice. Yeah, so you guys can always call in and I'll run hearing questions with you. Okay, cool. Yeah, it looks like, so Cheyenne's hitting most of these questions, which is good. I'll just kind of scroll down and see if I can find some of the tougher questions. Let's see. In the hospital for your mental health. It's over 10 years ago. Don't blame you. Same medical decision. Cool. It's tough. Mental health recent. Okay, cool. All right, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna scroll to the bottom. All right, so Carol, try to get witness statements on your mental health may help to just make sure they are trying to be helpful. All right, so here's the thing with witness statements for mental health. When you get statements from your friends, family, okay. Is there a way that I can just copy F? Yeah, let me see if I can do that. I tell you what, Cheyenne, if you could copy and paste their questions into the text at the bottom, I'm going to call right now. Hold on. Hey, this is Attorney Walter Hnot. How can I help you? Oh. Hi, this is Attorney Walter Hnot. How are you doing? Oh, I don't know what happened there. So somebody called in and then whatever went off. Okay, so what you need to know about those letters that people create to go ahead and whoever called me, you can just call me right back. That's fine. I'll go ahead and do the things with you. All right. It said it didn't give me a number, so you got to call me again. So basically, when people have those letters, and here I'll put it on the live thing so that I know when you call in. So when people write letters, the judges will write into their briefs that those letters were colored by basically their relationship, and that their testimony was colored by your relationship, and that they want you to obviously be found disabled and yada yada yada. So what that means is that some of the judges will automatically discredit those letters ahead of time so that they can't be used as heavily weighted evidence. Hold on, I gotta grab my dog real quick. Yeah, Bree, just go ahead and call me again. I'll grab the thingy. Okay. All right. So another thing that you need to do is this. When it comes down to letters, get a diversity of letters. Get letters from people you worked with. Get letters from people that you used to work with. Get letters from, way back in the day, showing a long history. There we go. Boo-boo. Hi, this is Attorney Walter Hnot. Are you ready to go ahead and run some hearing questions?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So what you do is go ahead and mute the computer, and then you'll be able to hear me directly through the phone. And the other thing that you need to know is that there's no attorney-client privilege, and that basically just make up and use a fake name. So, Madame, walk me through, what is your fake name for this hearing?
Okay, my name is Heather Brown.
Okay, excellent. Walk me through, what is your current age?
Okay, so I'm 22 years old.
Excellent. Now help me out. Are you left or right-handed?
I'm right-handed.
Okay. And are you working currently? Did you stop working?
No, I haven't worked successfully in about 2 years.
Okay.
Actually, I believe it's 3 years. But I've had multiple work attempts, but they've all failed. I've only been able to work for about 2 weeks.
Okay. Give me examples of those jobs that you used to work at.
Okay, so my first job was at Subway, and then I also worked as a waitress at a sports bar and also at Red Lobster.
Okay. And so as a waitress, now were you just doing the basic functions of bringing food out, or were you also ringing them up? Like, what did it involve?
I worked at a pub, so I did a lot. I was a hostess and I was a server, and we also did like events, like arm wrestling events, and like what are they called? Like I don't know. We had fight nights and stuff. So I did pretty much everything a waitress does and more.
Okay. So now here's the thing. When you do the hearing, just keep in mind the judge is going to try and increase the SVP number, which is like how complex your job was, because you basically did more things. So don't oversell it. You want a low SVP per job. You know, don't say, oh, I did payroll and I did scheduling and all this. Keep it simple. That way, basically, you get a lower SVP number. Now, let me ask you this. What are your top 3 most severe impairments?
Okay, so for me, the PTSD, and then I fractured my tailbone when I was assaulted, so it's like really hard for me to stand for really long periods of time, or even to sit for really long periods of time, because I have a coccyx injury.
Sure.
So it's the PTSD and then that injury that are the worst for me.
Okay. So let me ask you this. When it comes to, so PTSD, you've got the tailbone situation. Out of those 2, which is the worst?
The PTSD.
How long have you had PTSD?
I've had it for about 3 years now.
Okay. Now, look.
And I've been going to therapy, but I was...
Okay, go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So I've been going to therapy for about 2 years now, but throughout the process, my PTSD symptoms have been re-heightened.
Okay. So they're getting worse. How do we know they're getting worse?
Yes. Well, they're getting worse. Like, they were originally worse. Like, they were bad in the beginning, and I went to therapy, and they started to get better. And then I experienced more trauma, and then it just got really bad. Like, I lost all the progress that I made, and I'm really struggling just to even function. Like, some days I can barely even take care of myself. Like, I probably only cook, like, once a week, and that's on a good week.
So when you cook, what kind of meals do you usually make?
Like if I'm like on a good day, I'll actually make a meal. I'll make like spaghetti or tacos, but usually I'll get like TV dinners or anything I can put in the oven, like frozen meal, anything that's easy, like cereal or like Pop-Tarts. Like I eat anything easy because like it's hard for me. I struggle to have a routine, so I don't cook that often. So anything that's convenient to make, like TV dinners and like frozen foods.
Okay. But when you're having a good day, how many good days do you have in a month versus bad days?
I'd probably say like on average a month, I probably have like 5 good days.
Okay, 5 good days. So walk me through this. You've got 5 good days. Well, what do you cook on those 5 good days?
I probably would make spaghetti, or I really like to make tacos, or sometimes I even make like chicken wing dip, just like foods I enjoy, comfort foods.
So when you make these foods, what do you do to them that makes them special? What kind of extra steps do you put into them?
The only thing extra that I do is I use Tupperware to like put my food away because I know that I don't cook that often. So I usually just cook like once and then like eat the food throughout the week. Okay.
All right. So help me out with this PTSD. What happened? What caused it?
Okay, so there are a number of things that I went through. So originally what caused my PTSD was I was date raped, and then I found my dad overdosed, which only made it worse. And then that sent me to therapy. I also got evicted, which was pretty traumatic for me with the landlord. So then I went to therapy, and then last year my mom overdosed, and she actually passed away. My dad survived it the first time, but my mom didn't make it. So I was like re-traumatized all over again. And then the day of my mom's funeral, my brother and I got into a really bad fight, and he like tackled me to the ground and he strangled me. And so basically, like my mother dying of an overdose and then getting tackled and strangled by my brother is what's made the PTSD really bad for me. Like I'm struggling to even talk about it now just because it's hard to like think about it.
Do you get
So
flashbacks
like
or
I get a
nightmares?
lot of flashbacks, or I get emotional, and I'll get like panic attacks where I'll get really sweaty and my heart will race and I'll shake and stuff. And like I'm just usually like really hyper vigilant, where I'm always checking behind me to see if people are following me. Like if anybody comes up behind me, it scares me because it just reminds me of like the trauma. Like it catches me off guard. So I don't really sleep that good because I have like nightmares quite often. It's like really, really affecting me, and I'm quite ashamed that I can't work because it used to be like really important to me. I used to be a really hard worker. I got a job at 16 years old. I dropped out of high school and I got a job just so I could help out at home. Both of my parents struggled with drug addiction my whole life, so like my whole childhood was traumatic. Then all those things that I went through were traumatic, and I'm trying to go to therapy just to process them.
You said you really didn't work over the past 2 to 3 years, but then you said you were a hard worker. So where did you work at 16 from, and keep the job and keep working there?
Okay, my first job was at Subway, and I worked for this lady named Kathy, and she owned 2 different stores. So I worked between the 2 different stores, and I worked there for a year, and that was in 2016 until 2017 when I got a job at Tilted Kilt, which was like a local pub. It was like a pub and like an eatery. Mm-hmm. And I worked there for a year, and then they closed down, and I got a job at Red Lobster. But then that was when the PTSD kicked in, and I ended up quitting Red Lobster because I just couldn't handle it.
Okay. Now, help me out with this. When you get flashbacks, what happens?
So basically, like sometimes they're all different. Like sometimes they can be different. Sometimes I'll literally feel like I'm back in the same like experience, and it feels like it's happening right now. And other times it's just like an intrusive thought where I'll be like riding in the car and I'll think of it and I can't like get it out of my brain. But other times it's like I literally reenacting it, and I emotionally emotions I felt when I went through it. Like I just get like overwhelmed. A lot of things trigger me. Like if I talk about it, it's like it's hard for me to talk about because it makes me upset. It makes me feel like I'm reliving it when I speak about it.
Do you currently receive food stamps?
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
Do you currently receive food stamps?
Yes, I do. I receive food stamps and temporary assistance.
So you're getting TAMF, you're getting food stamps, but how do you afford your rent?
I live alone, and I have $386 that goes to my rent, and then the remainder is $134. And my family usually helps me out with that because I don't have any work, and they know that I'm trying to get Social Security, willing to like help support me like while I'm working on it.
Do you have a loan agreement with them?
Sorry, could you say that again?
Do you have a loan agreement for the funds that they're sending you?
I remember that I had my grandma fill out a note saying that she financially supported me, and I think that's faxed over to my lawyer, but I'm not quite sure. I don't know if I have a law agreement, but she does support me.
All right, you're going to need a full-on loan agreement that meets the Social Security Administration's requirements. Have your attorney send that to you, because otherwise you're going to get the 1/3 reduction rule applied to your SSI back payments. Now, with that said,
you said it's called a loan agreement?
A loan agreement, yeah. It's a loan agreement that says she's not giving you the money, but she's lending you the money, which you have to thereafter pay back. She can ultimately go ahead and forgive that. In America, loan agreements can be forgiven without issue. But for the purposes of adjudication relevant to SSI and 1/3 reduction, you got to have that loan agreement that specifically has what's required. So have your attorney send that over to you. Now, let me ask you this.
Okay, so my hearing is really soon. It's on the 16th. So do you think I would have time to get that?
Yeah. I mean, the attorney should have a template of it. If your attorney doesn't have a template of it.
Because I have talked to my attorney. Like, I even told him I was nervous about the hearing.
Yeah.
But I didn't really feel like he briefed me that well.
Yeah.
Like, he just basically told me that they would ask me questions.
Awesome. Don't you love when people, like, get you really prepped? Like, you know how to now fly the spaceship ready? I know. That's I felt that way.
That's how I ended up on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's how I felt about my entire law school. Like when I went through law school, the classic joke is like, you'll be the first day of class, calculate the surface of the sun, and then you end up at the final day and you're like, nothing that I studied that was part of this class is on this exam. So I hear you. All right, let me ask you this. Talk to me about your physical impairment. What happened with that? So you got a fracture.
Okay, I fractured fractured my tailbone before I was assaulted, and I went to the doctors for it, but there was no documentation of that. And then I was assaulted, and I went to the emergency room, and I don't think that they documented that my tailbone was fractured because they were mainly concerned about, like, I had a concussion, and they were, like, worrying about that. So I don't think that it was documented that I have it, but it is documented that I went to a spine clinic for, like, they referred me to that clinic, and I went there. So they told me that I actually, sorry, hold on a second. I have it on my fridge. They said I have an SF joint dysfunction, and they want me to get steroid injections, but I'm just waiting because of the virus.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let me ask you this.
And they have me on pain meds for it as well.
Okay. What's the pain medication?
Hold on. I need to go find that. I'm sorry. I didn't have it with me.
No, it's okay.
It's for inflammation, and then I'll tell you the name of it in a second.
Okay.
Okay. It's called, hold on. That's not very long. Okay, I think. Sorry, I have so many in here.
All right, let's skip that question. Let's go to the tougher question that you're not going to be able to answer, which is what medications are you on? And let's skip that question and now go to the better question, which is what are the medications for that you're currently taking?
Okay, so there's kind of a long list of them. Mm-hmm. So the first one I take is trazodone, which is a sedative to help me sleep because I have the nightmares and the insomnia. Mm-hmm. And then I take propanol, which is a beta blocker, which is for anxiety, which is for like the sweating and like the physical symptoms of the anxiety. Mm-hmm. I take loratadine, which is an and then I take citalopram, which is an SSRI, which I think is for the PTSD. Mm-hmm.
Okay. What side effects do you get from each of those types of medications?
Okay, so with the trazodone, which is the sedative, it gives me a really dry mouth, and I feel like hungover the next day. Like when I take it and I wake up, I feel really, really groggy, and it takes me like a while to like wake up in the morning, more so than like usual. Mm-hmm. And then I take the propanol for anxiety daily, and that gives me a really dry mouth, and sometimes I kind of like shake or I get low blood pressure because it's like a blood pressure med, and I already have low blood pressure.
Mm-hmm. Walk me through this. Oh no, we lost the claimant. Hold on, I'll call her back. 1 second, guys. Okay. Oh, your phone died. Okay. Yeah, just reconnected and, just yada, yada. Okay, no biggie. So once she's reconnected, I'll reconnect with her. I want to give you guys a summary as to the things I was thinking during that whole testimony. First and foremost, those were very graphic things to consider, but I did not emotionally connect to them because there was no storyline for each one. And those are such powerful things. Deaths, attacks, being choked, that I needed more of a storyline to be able to emotionally connect to them. The other thing is that you've got to know what your pain medications are, and you're hearing soon, which means it's telephonic, which means you need to have a list with your medications on them, what the medications are for, and what side effects you get from each medication. You've got to have that stuff ready to roll because then you'll be able to kick butt when they ask you about them. Make sure your attorney asks you about the medication side effects. If the attorney doesn't, then go ahead and just throw it in with another answer. Another thing, your age is going to be tough because you're a younger person. You might have enough quarters of coverage, so make sure you're filed for both SSI and SSDI, not just one of those programs. If you're filed for both, perfect, awesome. If you're filed for both SSI and SSDI, you could potentially get on a better track. Now, Bree, the most important thing that you're going to learn today, so if you're like watching this, this is the part where you've got to be like, oh, I was listening to the attorney and he said this. This is like the important stuff. Shadow agrees. What it is that if you're 22, you need to go get what's called an SSA 4 form. Just type into Google SSA 4 PDF, but like split up like SSA space 4 space PDF. That is an application for what's called adult child. Get your Tootsie out of there. There you go. Adult child disability benefits. Once again, adult child disability benefits. That's where you can tap into your disabled parents' benefits or your parents' benefits that have tapped into their Social Security disability benefits, or whatchamacallit, yeah, Shadow needs his nails clipped badly. I just clipped him one time and he was bleeding and I felt horrible on it, you know. So what happened is basically, I asked my lawyer about it, and he told me it was too late to look into before hearing and recommend that I continue this. No, oh my, fuck no. I didn't say that. I'll have to bleep that out later. That's terrible. The issue continues as appeal. Oh my goodness. God, these attorneys are crap. All right, so here's what you need to know. Here's what you need to know. Immediately, tonight, while Shadow is licking his toenails, go and download the SSA 4 PDF and then complete that form. And then make 4 copies of that form completed, the completed form. And then mail off one of those copies to the local field. Sorry, you need to do something before that. Also print out an SSA 795. Again, an SSA 795. That's a statement of claimant form. SSA 795. You are going to put on the SSA 795. So like write this stuff on a piece of paper. I originally intended, yes, perfect. I originally intended to file disability programs being SSI, Adult Child Disability Benefit. However, I was not properly filed for all 3. What that means, actually, this is a claim, John Studd, I would win this claim. This is not a hard claim. What that means, well, I'm getting a text, which means I did something wrong. Okay, cool. So what that means is that you're going to go ahead and create the 795. I originally intended to file for all 3 programs, SSI, SSDI, and Adult Child Disability Benefits. Please file this SSA 4 form. No, John Studd, I'd get this through. I'd get a claim like this through. She's had enough horrible things happen in her life. As long as I had the medical to prove it, I could get this claim through. If she got a really bad judge, then I wouldn't, but otherwise I would. Yeah, I can get people through at 22. In fact, my whole business is basically, yeah, so if it's onset date of 2017, you're going to want to request that. All right, so here's the wording you put in the 795. Please attach and file my SSA 4 claim to my original protective filing date. Please attach my SSA 4 claim to my original protective filing date. Okay? So that's what you're going to write on the 795 statement of claimant form. I originally intended to file for SSI, SSDI, and Adult Child Disability Benefits. Please attach this SSA 4 Adult Child Disability Benefits claim to my original protective filing date. Okay? Then you're going to make 4 copies of those, and you're going to attach those onto you're going to staple it to the front of your, and remember, you got to sign the back of those. Don't not sign the back of those. Just screw it up. So what that means is you've got really, come on, shout out. Well, whatever. It doesn't matter if you see me or shout out. What it means then, you're going to attach that to the top of each one of those SSA 4s. And then you've got 4 copies with 4 SSA 4s and 4 795s. You're going to mail the first copy to your local field office. If you're not sure what your local field office is, just Google SSA local field office zip code. And then you'll be able to put that zip code into, your zip code into that program, and it'll tell you what your field office is. Remember, you have to push the I need other services button. I need other services button. So in order to figure out what your field, Don't lick the phone. You'll turn. Oh, nobody's on the phone. It doesn't matter. So what that means is that you have to go to that, Google SSA local field office zip code. You'll go to the program, enter your zip code. I need other services. It'll give you specifically the field office you're supposed to send it to. Now, what that means is that you're going to send your first copy to them with tracking. Be a pro, send it with tracking. You don't have to do it certified return receipt. Just do tracking. Number 2, you're going to send it to the hearing office. Okay? You're going to mail it to the hearing office. Number 3, you're going to mail it to your attorney. And number 4, you're going to keep a copy yourself, or you're going to mail yourself a copy. Either or. I mean, you can, just for purposes of it being an original thing that was created and sealed through the post office, you can mail it back to yourself, or you can wing it and just hold on to basically the original and say this is when you made it. Okay? You should mail it to yourself. That way you know when it was created and yada yada. Okay. Once you do that, the reason you're doing that is that if one of your parents has died, who is eligible for retirement or Social Security benefits, or one of your parents is impaired, or one of your parents is currently taking benefits from Social Security, you can tap into their benefits and get a lot more money, which is Mas Bueno Class 5, which is just made that up. So what that means is you'll then have the opportunity to go on to SSDI, SSI, and also adult child disability benefits. And you absolutely must see if you can get onto them, because ... you could be getting a tons of more. Once your phone is good to go, you can call me back. While I'm waiting for that call, I'm going to go ahead and scroll up, because I know Cheyenne sent me a thingy that was like, hey, answer this question, cha-cha-cha, blah, blah, blah. Private phone, and I've totally lost it. Okay, from Batgirl. Why is there not a BNC number on a letter I received instead of my Social Security number? I've never seen that before. Letter said they would be dealing with my lawyer from now on. Okay, so your BNC is your new number that only relates to basically your Social Security. It's your ID number. They don't like to send out letters when they can that have your Social Security number on it. They have not fully adopted throughout the entire system BNC numbers. Your attorney doesn't need, basically your attorney will link up what your BNC number is with what your Social Security number is. So they don't really need to know, what your BNC number is, because they'll get a notification from the SSA and then they'll link it together. So your BNC number is just a new number that they use so that they're not using your actual Social Security number. And the reason they do that is because otherwise your BNC number is not useful for all of the scam stuff that's currently going on, which points to the whole thing I was talking about in the beginning of this video, which is why the SSA is having such a hard time with all this scam stuff that's going on. And they've had such a bad time that they've affixed it to the back of their standard letters now. And I'll just read it again, because I know some of you guys are joining us later in the show. In the beginning of the show, I did a whole thing on this. Scammers are pretending to be government employees. They may threaten you and may demand immediate payment to avoid arrest or other legal action. Do not be fooled. You will notice that this is important because it has an exclamation point on it. It's important. If you receive a suspicious call, hang up. You will notice this is also very important because it has an explanation. It doesn't have 2. I would put 2 on there because I'm, a kid at heart. Do not give them money or personal information. Very important, exclamation point. When the government uses exclamation points, they're serious. More serious than they usually are, which is dead serious. Report the scam at oig.ssa.gov/reports. Because the Social Security Administration usually will give you part of the answer, but not the whole answer, they left out the part where you give // that one, reports. So there you go. I don't know why they do that. I always do that. I always give you like, here's a link. And then like, somewhere hidden in the treasure jungle is the actual thing you need. But whatever, it doesn't matter. Okay, anyway. So I got a notification. Scroll all the way down to questions. all the way. Who's clear? Mail first, copy to local field office. I have a pound, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it's a big lab. It's a big chubba dog. Let's see. Okay, I'm not seeing the questions. Let me see. That's all. Hearing is you saying what you can't do, and the judge sign with disability. I'm not sure what the questions were, but there's a phone call. Okay, cool. Hi, this is Attorney Walter Hnot. How can I help you?
Hi, this is Brianne.
Perfect. Let's continue. So, Madame, walk me through this. Let's talk about how long can you sit without having to stand up or sit or lay down?
Probably like an hour straight.
An hour straight. Okay. So 60 minutes. How long can you stand before you have to sit down or lay down?
Probably like a half an hour to an hour.
Half an
and
hour.
Then I start to get really sore on my right hip.
Okay, right hip. So, so how far can you walk before you have to stop and rest? Feet, meters, yards, stuff like that.
I can probably walk about a block before I need to take a rest.
Okay. Big block, little block?
After walking a block, I'm always sore afterwards.
Now, there is no perfect definition of how far or long a block is. So tell me in car lengths. How many car lengths would you say?
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I walk because I don't have a car, so I kind of have to walk. But I could walk maybe like 10 or take a rest.
Okay. So help me out with this. So you've got this hip issue, tailbone issue. You've got these problems. Is this something that really limits you in your daily activities, or is this just kind of like a mild irritant?
No, it's pretty painful. Like I'm constantly in pain 24/7. But like the longer that I stand or the longer I sit, the more pain I experience. Like if I spend all day like standing or walking or even sitting for a long period of time, by the end of the day I have to lay down because I'm so sore.
So you could probably work like a 4-hour job, right?
Yeah, but I could stand for that. I could probably stand for that long, but I don't know if I could work the job.
Mm-hmm. So then help me out with this. You said you might be able to do it. What if we had you in like a sedentary job where you're just answering telephones, giving directions, some basic stuff?
See, the problem for me is not the job itself, but it's like I can barely even take care of myself. So getting to a job, making sure I have transportation, that I'm always there on time. Like the social anxiety is hard for me. Like it would be hard for me to work on like a telephone job because I know that people can be really harsh over the phone.
Okay. Let's say that you didn't have to interact with the public, but you just had like a security job where you were sitting for 4 hours of an 8-hour workday looking at cameras, and that basically if there was a problem, you just had to make a phone call.
I think I could do that, but the only thing that concerns me is my ability to maintain the job. Like I don't sleep regular hours. Like I struggle to even take care of myself. So that's what concerns me. It's not that I wouldn't be able to do the job, but that I can't, like I'm not capable of keeping a job, if that makes sense. So I think I would be able to sit there for 4 hours. I would be able to answer the phone, but I don't know if I would be able to do it consistently. And I also have a lot of problems, like I can be aggressive and stuff when I get triggered. Okay. So like that comes up a lot when especially when I've tried to work like before, like with my work attempts.
So basically, you could potentially work a sedentary 8-hour job, but you wouldn't be able to work it for more than a couple of months, no matter what.
Like that's my experience. I've been able to work about 2 weeks, and then it's not worked out. I've either had a panic attack, or I was late to work. I wasn't on time. I slept through my shift, like things like that, or I wasn't able to get transportation, or I freaked out and had an anxiety attack. I tried to work at Sabaro's, which was the pizza place in the mall, and I was at work and I was having anxiety so bad that I was puking in the garbage can. And I explained to my boss that I was having anxiety so bad, that's why I was feeling sick. And they were really kind to me, like they let me go on a break and everything, but it was like keeping me from being able to do the actual job because I was so anxiety filled that I just couldn't function.
Okay.
So like even though they were so kind and they were understanding, like I still wasn't able to do the job when they gave me a break and they like gave me time to go get some air and stuff like that.
Okay, I want to take a moment right now. I'm in my squeaky chair, and I swear this thing is going to break on me. But I want to take a moment and explain to people on YouTube the things that I'm worried about. So this is important. These are kind of the mistakes with the testimony that I'm hearing. First and foremost, I put words in your mouth and said basically you could work an 8-hour job. And then you said essentially, which is not good because that's an affirmation. And then you changed it to about 2 weeks, then you wouldn't be able to do it. But still, you put an affirmation on that you could potentially do that. So stay with the story that you cannot do an 8-hour-a-day job. And also, damn, you got to stick with it. You can't do a 4-hour-a-day job either. Now, with that said, I'm going to ask you some trick questions here. You did one really, really good thing, which is that you started to go into accommodations that you received while you're working at the pizza place. However, what I was looking for is even more accommodations. You said they gave you breaks, you had time, this or that. I want to know you didn't have to lift trash cans. I want to know that you didn't, have to do.
They didn't lift trash cans. Like if anything, one thing that I remember specifically that they did was I really wasn't feeling well and I kept throwing up in the trash cans and I told them I had so much anxiety. I took an anxiety med. I was going to see if it worked. And they sent me into the back of the restroom. Or sorry, not the restroom, the restaurant. And they had me just dry the trays and clean the trays. So I didn't have to do anything else except for just sit there and clean the trays. And I still was freaking out and having an anxiety attack.
Now, help me out with this.
And everything will get off track. And then it feels like I have to start all over, if that makes sense.
But you're
like I'm able to do a good day, but I'm not able to continuously upkeep with it.
But you're able to catch up, I'm assuming.
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right. So, all right. Now, that was, if you ever get a chance, and I'm assuming you found the top 50 ALJ trick questions, like those videos I made. I guess what I would say is this, go watch those because that's the first trick question of the entire series of the top 50 ALJ trick questions. And that question right there, you just gave me an affirmation that you pretty much can do those things, which means you pretty much.
Yeah, so like, how I feel is I'm struggling. Like, I don't want to disagree with you.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. I'm allowed to disagree with you.
Mm-hmm. So.
Okay, well, good. Because I don't want to say that you're a liar or anything. You know what I mean?
No, well, no. What you're going to say to the judges, no, I cannot do. So first thing is when you hear a multi-category question, you got to split them up. So if you're sitting there with a piece of paper, split them up so that you can go ahead and say, we are going to be addressing cooking, we are going to be addressing cleaning, we're going to be addressing laundry, and we're going to be addressing paying bills. Now, you tell me out of those categories, which ones did you address?
Which ones did I just address now? Yeah,
when I asked the question, which ones did you hit?
I just addressed like cooking and cleaning.
Okay. So what does that mean? You said you could probably, do them, and you didn't go into the other ones, which means you just gave an affirmation that you totally could do those other ones. And that doesn't sound fair, but that's how it works. Yeah. You're going to literally break them up category by category. And then from there, you're going to basically go ahead and essentially say, okay, with cooking, I have a difficult time, standing. I have a difficult time, lifting pots and pans. I have a difficult time following the instructions. Whatchamacallit, with all of the functions that, required to actually make a meal. Because remember when you were talking about, for example, spaghetti, we were like, hey, and I, what I was getting at with that was, what specific special things do you do? What extra steps do you take? I was setting you up for failure. And the reason I was trying to get you to say, well, I can make spaghetti that, has all of these other details, all these extras, right? All these, yada yadas. And so what that means is that I can now show, instead of spaghetti taking 5 steps, you're into like the 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, you're into the multi steps, which means that you could do potentially a chef-based or lower position within the culinary field job. All right, let's go through laundry. Why can't you do laundry?
Okay, so I can do all these things, but I just struggle to keep up with them. So sometimes I'll let them get on my hand. So I'm able to cook, I'm able to clean, I'm able to do my laundry, but sometimes I get really depressed, or I just get like out of my routine, and I let all those things get out of hand, and then I spend like days catching up on them, but I'm able to do them all. I have my laundry on site, and it's only just downstairs. So I do my laundry. I only have to go down one flight of stairs and come back up.
Okay.
My cooking is pretty easy. I cook meals that are easy, like pasta. All you have to do is boil water and strain the noodles and warm up the sauce. And then I cook things like frozen meals that you just have to put like on a tray and put them in the oven, things like that.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Now, when you use the phrasing, I can do those things, I prefer that you use the testimony shaping phrasing of, I can do these things only sometimes. Because that's what you're telling me, right? You can only do them sometimes.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, cool. So you're getting better at this. Now, the next thing I want you to do is that when you're talking about laundry, now you've got hip problems, which means you have lifting problems, right? You have a difficult time lifting heavy things, I'm assuming.
Yes, I do. But I just do it because I have no other choice. I live alone, so I have to do it.
No, I know that you're not fibbing on me. I know that you're not fudging me on this thing, because if you were fudging me on this thing, you would have a boyfriend, you would have better transportation options, you have somebody else.
I have nobody, because I'm so, like, emotionally volatile.
Right.
The only relationships I still have are with my family.
Article by article, because you can't pick up and lift a full laundry basket. Talk to me about weight limitations, lifting limitations.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I like explain to you step by step what I do when I do my laundry.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a plastic bin, and I usually do like a load at a time. So I'll do like outfits and a couple towels or whatever I'm going to wash, and I fill the bin halfway. And then I go down the stairs to the laundry room, and I carry the bin on my own, and I put the clothes in the washer, and then I put them in the dryer, and then I bring them upstairs. And then when I get upstairs, I sit on the bed, and I fold them, and then I usually put them in the dresser.
So as an attorney, as a judge, the first thing I'd be thinking of, she goes up and down stairs with the laundry. Is that correct?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So that means you don't have heavy weight limitations unless you're taking only a few pieces of clothing up and down each time.
Now, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So because these are like physical limitations, are these just as important for me, even though I'm mainly focusing just like the PTSD is what is my disability?
So let me counter that with another question. Is your attorney only focusing on your top number 1 and number 2 most severe impairments?
Yes.
Okay.
So I think mainly my attorney is just focusing on the PTSD.
Okay. Now let me ask you another question in reference to your question. Do you feel that you are limited in your abilities to function and do a job purely because of your top 2, or is it a totality of the circumstances of all of your impairments that limit your ability to work?
Okay, so in my opinion, I think it's just the PTSD that limits me from working, but the tailbone injury contributes, but that's not the factor. It's just the PTSD that stops me from working. It basically stops me from functioning like completely in life.
What are your top 5 most severe impairments?
So like, would that be the symptoms of the PTSD?
Well, here, I'll do it for you. PTSD, I've got the hip/bone issue, arthropathy in multiple areas of the body, anxiety, panic attacks, sleep insomnia, depression, personality disorder. That's a little bit more than 5.
Yeah, so I have like PTSD with dissociative symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that could be considered a personality disorder.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I also have trilotic. I can't even say it. It's a disorder where you pull out your hair when you're stressed out.
Yeah, sure. So let me ask you this.
I'm pretty sure all of these things are documented because I go to the therapist for it.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what we're getting at, because they didn't just give you one diagnostic impression being PTSD. They wrote down depressive disorder, anxiety, panic attacks, personality disorder, schizoaffective disorder. They wrote down all the things that you fall into. You are not just one PTSD bundle. That's it. So
okay,
you are
all of those things.
So yeah. Well, let me ask. I'm gonna ask you the question again. You tell me, Do you feel that your claim is only your PTSD impairment, or do you feel that there's more going on, that the totality of all these issues equates to why you can't work?
No, I believe that there's more going on, but in my opinion, the PTSD just affects me the most.
Do you ever have panic attacks?
Yes, I have them like constantly, pretty much every week.
Is PTSD also a panic attack?
A panic attack can be a symptom from PTSD.
Is anxiety PTSD?
No, anxiety is related to PTSD.
Okay. Do you ever get anxious? That's why you can't sleep, of course.
I'm pretty much anxious, anxious 24/7. Like, I'm so anxious right now.
Okay. So help me out. Is a panic attack related to anxiety, or is a panic attack related to PTSD?
I think it's related to both.
Correct. Correct. Excellent. So we have a bridging symptom, and that bridging symptom belongs to two separate impairments that you both experience.
See what you're getting at.
Yeah. So my point is, I'm a little worried about your representation. I'm a little bit worried about your plan of attack here, because there's so many issues, you know? All right.
Memory problems and concentration problems.
Dude,
and then I had a failed injury.
You are miles ahead of where you were. You are miles ahead of where you were. Now I have a palette of
glad to hear
impairments.
that, because I needed this conversation, because I did not feel prepared at all.
So let's do this. I want to start with remember, I attacked you in the beginning by trying to get you to tell me all these different steps. Now I'm going to try to attack you another way. So just be prepared. I'm going to be sneaky. I'm going to be an asshole. Just, just stick with me on this. So, all right, walk me through this. What's your favorite television show?
I really like Supernatural.
Supernatural. That's a show about what? Wizards and, young beings of power?
Yeah, it's like two brothers who fight like evil spirits and stuff. Okay,
so it's a Buffy the Vampire Hunter spiel.
Yeah, basically.
Wait, is Buffy a vampire? Yeah, I was thinking of Xena. Xena fights Romans and Greeks, I think. Anyway, so my whole childhood is just a mess at this point when it comes to the popular shows I loved. I don't know if it was Jerry Seinfeld or Friends or whatever, but something happened in there. Okay, so let me ask you this. What is the main theme of the story in that?
It's two brothers who are trying to avenge the death of their mother.
Okay. What was the last show that you watched about?
Sorry, could you say that again?
When was the last show that you watched, and what was it about?
I think the last show that I watched was Grey's Anatomy, which is a show about doctors in a hospital.
But specifically with Supernatural, when was that? When was the last time you watched that show?
Probably a few days ago.
Probably a few days ago? Okay, so help me out with this. What was that particular episode about?
I don't know. I usually just put the TV on for background noise while I'm doing other things. Okay. But they're all different episodes. Usually they're fighting ghosts. I think the specific one was about a evil clown, and their day kept repeating. They kept living the same day over and over again, and they had to figure out what the curse was and then undo it so that they could go back to their normal life. Okay, so this is a complex episode. So when was the last time you watched an episode from this same show before that? I can't remember, to be honest. Well, what was it? A day? A week? It was probably a few days to a week. Okay. Do you remember what it was about? I don't know. I don't really watch it that consistently. Are you asking me? I'm sorry. Are you asking me about the Supernatural or a different show? Supernatural. I can only remember watching it just a few days ago, and then before that, I don't really have any specific memories. Just that I know I watched it before. Is this a 30-minute show or a 60-minute show? I want to say 30 minutes. Do you tape the show ahead of time, or do you watch it as it comes up on TV? I watch it on Netflix. Okay, so you can watch it, pause it, go back to it. Yeah, I've already seen the whole show before, and I just rewatched the episodes because I enjoy it. Okay, so can you tell me how many series, how many what is it called? It's where how many
It comes out this year.
Season?
Yeah, exactly. How many of those are there?
Okay, I remember that there are 14 seasons.
Okay, so there's 14 seasons, and I'm guessing what, 7 shows to 10 shows per season?
Yeah, there's probably a lot more than that. It's a big show.
It's a big show. So that there's a lot of it. So I'm guessing most of the time you just sit there and watch Netflix throughout the day.
Yeah, I spend a lot of my time at home. The only time I leave my house is if I need to go to the store to get something, or I'm going to my family's house.
Okay. All right. What I've just proved is that you have an ability to basically remember and have memory functions. What I proved is that you have an ability to sit for an extended.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so a lot of my memory issues come from dissociation, which is where like I'll spend a long period of time dissociated, or I'll have like dissociative amnesia, where I don't remember like certain things that I've done or certain days. So how do I explain that to them? Because you're asking me about like what can I remember from a TV show. That's not the kind of memory problems I have. The memory
Run the question that go to that benefit. So watch how I do this, and watch, and then you have to jump in with the information. You cannot be passive. So first question, walk me through, what kind of memory issues do you have?
Okay, so for me, like it's really hard for me to remember specific dates, or like even from a few months ago. Like I don't remember like dates of where I worked. Like I remember I worked there for a year, but I don't remember what date I started, or what time of the year I started, or what time of the month I started. Or like it's hard for me to remember certain periods of my life. Like it's hard for me to remember a lot of the stuff that happened when my mom passed away, because I was going through a lot of trauma around that time, and I was dissociated a lot. So anytime that I feel dissociated, like that's what I have, like memory problems, or I have like time almost doesn't feel real. So I'll spend like a few hours laying in bed, and I won't realize like so many hours have passed. It only feel like it had been like 20 minutes, but really had been like 5 hours. So like that's what happens to me. Like I'll spend a few hours dissociated in my bed, and then realize it's like 9 o'clock at night, and the whole day is gone, and I didn't do anything. Or sometimes it's like when I experience a trauma, I dissociate just to deal with the trauma.
But this doesn't sound like something that would really hurt your ability to work a job, does it?
It does, because if I get triggered, or like while I'm at work, then it can happen. Or like when I have memory problems, like it's hard for me to remember when I need to be somewhere. Like when I have appointments, I miss a lot of my appointments unless they're the same day and the same, like I go to therapy every Monday at 1 o'clock, because I don't forget that I have to be there, because it's every Monday at 1 o'clock. But if I had a changing schedule, that would be hard for me, because it's like I can't remember things, and I struggle to have a routine and be consistent.
Why couldn't you just use a calendar?
Because I struggle to remember to even put it in the calendar.
Okay. So help me out with this. When it comes to, let's see, the suicidal ideation that you have you ever been Baker acted?
Say that again?
Have you ever been Baker acted?
What does that mean?
It means that basically you tell the cops that, or you tell somebody who tells the cops, and the cops come and pick you up, that you...
This has happened to me literally probably over 20 times, maybe even more than that. Okay. It's happened to me millions and millions of times. I've gone to a place, it's called CPAS, which is like an inpatient facility. They've never kept me inpatient, but they've held me there and given me like anxiety medication, and then sent me home when they realized I was stable. But I've had the police come to my house a million times because they thought I was going to kill myself, and they would take me there. And I also attempted to try to kill myself in 2016, and I was in the ICU for like 2 days. And so, I mean, so that's where like that comes from.
All right, I'm going to tell you this.
Like now, when I have suicidal thoughts, what I've worked on is calling my therapist or a crisis line. That's what I do whenever I have suicidal thoughts now, because that's what I learned in therapy. But when it gets really bad, I've had the police called, and they've escorted me in a police car to the CPAP, and they evaluated me and then sent me home when they realized I was stable.
Okay. So that's excellent, because that is going to be one of the main factors that gets you found disabled. Write this down for me, though. Have your attorney...
It happened to me like within a month. Like it's happened like a month ago.
Okay, that's good. That's really good. Do me a favor, write this down. I need to ask my attorney what medical records he has, by which facility, and what dates he has. By which facility and what dates he has.
I know that he does have records from that place that I went to. Because I made sure I told him that I've been there before so that he would get like records from there.
Now,
so that would help, right?
Yeah. Here's part 2 of that. I want you to have him read to you what's in the F folder. Have him read to you what is in the F folder. And the reason why is that that is what will actually dictate what is in the SSA system.
Okay.
And then
so
if it's
the F folder?
Yeah, if it's not in the F folder, have him also check the F exhibit folder, or sorry, the F case documents folder, because he will be able to see. Next thing, let's talk about
I'm
this.
I'm really glad that I was able to talk to you, because I feel like I just more based.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Next thing, you have an issue with walking. Block is a limitation. Why don't you have a cane, a walker, a wheelchair, a sling, anything, special shoes, anything?
Well, I've never been offered anything by my doctors.
Mm-hmm.
I've never asked for anything, but I don't know. I just kind of live with the pain because I have no other choice. Like, I have to go to the store if I need something, and I take the pain meds, but it doesn't like make it go away completely. 2 things. The only thing what they did offer me was they offered to give me steroid injections, and then if those don't work, they wanted to do surgery to remove my tailbone. Okay. So that answers my next question, which is you haven't had any surgery on the location of your tailbone, correct? No, but they said that they didn't want to do it unless they had to. Like, it would be the last option. Because if they screw it up, it's your spine. So yeah, exactly. Yeah. So let me ask you this then. All right. So never use in a hearing the phrase that, I just deal with the pain. Never use that phrasing. Use, I take my pain medication, but it's not effective. And I want to get an orthopedic device, but they haven't offered it to me, and I'm going to ask for one. I do. They did give me a pillow to sit on, but that's the only thing I have. I have a donut pillow. So I sit on that when I'm at home. Cool. Because it helps, because it like elevates, like, I don't know, you sit in the donut so you're not putting pressure on the tailbone. Right. And that's extra important. Write that at the top of your sheet as an orthopedic device. Okay. And then something also that should be in there is if you have special insoles or special shoes or any braces or anything like that. I don't know if you do, but you might even have a special type of shoes that you don't realize are special, as in they're open toe. I have asthma and I use an inhaler. Should I mention that? Yeah, absolutely. Okay. These all explain difficulty with walking, more than a block. Okay, so walk me through this. I purposely moved to an apartment where the grocery store was 1 street away and the corner store was a block down the road, so that I had everything right by me, because I don't drive. I knew I had to walk, and I knew I wasn't good at going out in the world, so I wanted everything close to me. Now, you're in a multi-story building, right? Yes. What story is the bedroom on? I have a studio apartment, and when you walk in, there's stairs to go down and then stairs to go up. So I'm on the floor where you go up the stairs. So I think it would be considered the first floor. And then there's a floor beneath me, or a level beneath me and a level above me. So I'm on the main floor, and then the laundry is 1 level beneath me. But it's just it's not a full flight of stairs. It's I want to say 5 steps. Walk me to the laundry room. Okay, where's the kitchen? The kitchen. So I have a studio apartment. It's just 1 room and a bathroom. Okay. So everything's there except for the laundry. Yes. Well, you better have a good explanation for how you get that laundry up and down that, especially with a spine-based issue relating to your hip when it comes to lifting things. Really, honestly, I'm not to say this at the hearing, but I'm surprised that you say that, because even though it hurts, like, I still managed to do it.
Well, does your pain medication help with that?
Well, the pain medication is for inflammation. So when I take it, like, it does help, but it doesn't like make the pain go away completely. It just reduces it.
Okay. Let me ask you this. So when it comes to cleaning, I'm assuming you clean the downstairs and the middle stairs area, correct?
No, I don't have to clean that, because we have one of the people who live in my building, he's a tenant here. He takes care of the hallways and he does the trash. So I don't have to worry about that. I just have to keep my apartment, my studio clean.
Do you vacuum?
Yes, I vacuum and I sweep.
Is it a big vacuum or a little vacuum? It's like one of those ones that doesn't go.
Yeah, a handheld vacuum. It actually really sucks. I need a vacuum.
But the regular vacuum, you're going to get a light one, right?
Yeah, I would.
Okay, good. Make sure that if that comes up.
Is light as well.
Okay, make sure if that pops up, you can explain it. The next thing I want to ask you about is, what about when it comes to reaching up high for dusting? Do you have any limitations with that?
I'm pretty short, so if I need to like get up to like my top of my fridge, I would stand on a chair.
So you can balance on a chair?
Yeah, for a minute. Not for a long period of time, but long enough to dust.
What are examples of things that you have to dust that are up high?
Just my cabinets and my fridge.
So you're able to get above the cabinets, is
so
what
like
you're saying.
if I need something out of my cabinet, I would stand on a chair to grab it and then get down.
Wouldn't it be easier just to buy one of those giant long Swiffer sweepers that goes out like 6 to 8 feet?
I actually have a Swiffer. I do that sometimes, but I was thinking of more like when I need to get in my cupboard to like grab a can of something, like I have to use a chair because I'm short.
Okay, that's cool. All right, now let me ask you this. What about driving? What kind of vehicle do you have?
I don't drive. I never learned how to drive, and I don't own a vehicle.
What about bicycles? What do you drive?
I don't have a bicycle.
What about motor scooters or carts?
No, I don't use those either.
So you only walk to get food?
Yeah, I would walk. I walk just across the street to the grocery store.
And how far is the nearest bus stop?
It's at the corner. It's the same length or the same distance as the grocery store. It's right at the corner of the grocery store.
When was the last
so I'd walk to the top of my street and one block over, and then the bus stop would be there.
When was the last time you were out of the county?
I haven't been out of the county before.
You've never left the county you were born in?
I'm sorry?
You never left the county you were born in?
I don't think so, no. I think I went to Florida once when I was like 12.
Okay.
But I really haven't even left Onondaga County.
Okay. Well, then I got to tell you, go check out some of those drone aerial footage shots of different countries. You will love them. They are neat. All right. Let me ask you this. When it comes to environmental restrictions, those are the restrictions that occur in the environment which limit your ability and your impairments. They include things like heat, cold, dust, loud sounds, vibrations, bright lights. What in the environment tends to limit your impairments even further?
Okay, so for me, like loud sounds or anything that I'm not expecting will scare me. Like if someone walks up behind me and I don't know, and like they tap me on the shoulder, like I would hit them because I would be so startled. And so like any loud sounds, like I have a lot of fireworks going on around me and they literally terrify me, like especially when I don't know that they're like someone's about to set one off. Mm-hmm. Like those things give me anxiety. And then like, I don't know, when it snows, it kind of limits me because then it's hard for me to walk places to get the things that I need. And like, I would say like large crowds of people, or mm-hmm. when I have to do anything in a fast pace, like if I'm being rushed, I have a panic attack every time. It like triggers something in me. Yeah. Because of like something that I went through that was traumatic. Like I cannot be rushed. Like as soon as someone says, hurry, you need to hurry up, you need to hurry, I immediately start panicking and I can't think straight. So like large crowds of people, like experiences where I have to like work with other people in a fast-paced environment, like that stresses me out.
What food store do you shop at?
It's Tops.
Okay. And, you know, what's the heaviest thing you usually buy? What, like a gallon of milk?
Yeah, probably a gallon of milk.
Okay. What are some of the snacks that you like to buy?
I buy like cereal and Pop-Tarts and like really easy things that like I can just grab and go, like yogurt and smoothies.
Okay.
I like bags, I like chips and stuff like that. Anything that's easy and convenient because I don't cook often.
And
when
light.
I do cook, I cook things that I can like store in Tupperware so I can eat it later on.
So help me out with this. You, how many bags, grocery bags, do you usually have to carry?
Sometimes my grandparents will take me to the grocery store and I'll do like a big shop for the whole month.
Mm-hmm.
And other times if I can't get a ride to the grocery store, I will just walk to the grocery store and buy what I want for like breakfast and dinner for that day, or maybe some stuff just for the week. So it depends. I'll either do one big trip where someone will give me a ride so I can have help carrying the bag, or I'll just make one trip where I grab a few things for the day or a few things for the week. And when I do take a trip, like, and I walk, I'll probably carry like 2 to 4 bags.
Well, let me ask you this, and this is important. You know, I just want to ask this: how long does it usually take for you to shop? You know, like a regular shopping experience.
If I was going to just buy like dinner and like breakfast or something for the week, it would probably take me about 25 minutes to 30 minutes, like through the whole process of picking out what I wanted, going through the grocery store line and the checkout, and then like not including the time it takes me to walk.
Okay, so we've reached the 2-hour mark, and I have to take my baby Shadow out for his break outside. But let me go ahead and summarize quickly in my squeaky chair, specifically what I heard that is problematic. If it takes you 25 to 30 minutes for a quick shopping experience, that means you just walked a block to the store, you walked around for a half an hour, and then you walked a block back. You said you had like 4 or potentially 5 bags. One of the things you agreed to was a gallon of milk, which means if you've got 8 or 9 pounds in a gallon of milk plus all this other stuff, I know that you can lift over sedentary or light requirements, which means I can't get you a vocational allowance for the physical limitations. You're solely down to basically whether or not you can get a vocational allowance for the mental PTSD limitations. So I've disproved your claim for physical. I think I should have done more on the mental with you because there's still a lot of trick questions out there. But have you watched the top 50 like ALJ trick questions?
I did. I watched the playlist. There was I think I watched up to 18 maybe.
Okay. Do me a favor.
I was trying to make sure I felt prepared.
Okay, cool. Watch the rest of them because there's a lot of things that you were saying that if I were a judge, would go after. And but you are miles ahead of where you are. So let's do one last question with you, and then I'll answer some of the questions that popped up in the chat. Madame, what are your top 5 most severe impairments?
PTSD, a tailbone injury, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, and I think that's it. Right?
How many was that?
Right. That was only 4. Okay, sorry. Let me start over.
Okay.
So PTSD, a tailbone injury, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, and depression.
What about the memory?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. My memory, and I have memory problems, concentration problems, and dissociation problems.
Okay. Do me a favor tonight, while this is all fresh, make a list of your top 5 that you're going to be shooting with, and then you're going to incorporate the other ones into your testimony. Make sure you tell the attorney.
Up as I start seeing my symptoms and not just what the problem is.
Remember too, like, you know, each one of these mental impairments has a listing attributed to it. Like, you know, PTSD 12.15, anxiety 12.06, depression 12.04. Each one of them is their own impairment. So don't sell yourself short here, you know?
Okay. I don't know. I know I'm diagnosed with PTSD, so I'm comfortable saying that. But I don't want to just list out all these things because I don't want to sound like a hypochondriac.
You are going to need to list out all these things because these things dictate why you can't work. And at your age, you're not getting a gritting. You don't sound like a cow. You're maybe a listing, but you're definitely your best shot is vocational allowance.
Okay. I'm really glad that I was able to talk to you. Thank you for helping me out.
Absolutely, madam. Have a wonderful, wonderful night. If you have further questions, don't be afraid to call back next week or shoot me an email, and then we'll go from there, you know?
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, guys, so I want to go ahead and scroll up to the questions, which are, oh, God, way up here somewhere. Let me see if I can find them. Let me see. Okay, do veterans have SSDI if you're under 30? No, you have a worse chance for SSDI. Veterans have a better chance for SSDI when they are over 50 years old. When you're under 30, basically they put you through more requirements for potential jobs in the national economy that what you could do. The only thing that's going to be the main factor for helping you is 100% VPAT allowance or a high percent allowance for your impairments. So that's, or keep in mind an attachment to PTSD or something that limits you mentally, or affective disorders for depression and or bipolar based upon actual wartime interaction. Like you got injured in wartime, that helps, or you were, you know, having repetitive mind logic issues due to side effects and or flashbacks based upon what you saw as you were active in the military. Next question. Can you cut grass if you are disabled? So actually, there's a whole thing of law on this. At first I was like, that's a question. But then I was like, wait a minute, there's a whole thing of law on this. This is actually a really good question. So, the whole thing, there was a case on this, is basically, can you cut grass with a push mower, which goes into the same law where they talk about your ability to push and pull with a vacuum, versus do you mow grass on a seated lawnmower? And the big argument is the capabilities of a seated lawnmower. And remember, there's still limitations, like, you know, being in the seated position, dealing with bumps, dealing with vibrations, stuff like that, being out in the sun, yada, yada. But that has a much lesser expectation of ability for a residual functional capacity analysis than, for example, having to push a mower, which requires the ability to push at a certain weight, which means that your back issues, your hip issues, and you're sitting there or you're standing there pushing a mower, it calls into the validity of how bad your back issues really are. So that's actually a really good question. When I first read it at first glance, I was like, but no, that was an actual case that they had about that. All right, guys. So I'm super tired. I've got to take Shadow out. Keep in mind, I was recording some videos before this just to, you know, get things rolling. I will catch you guys a little bit later. Have an absolutely wonderful night. And if you have any questions, don't be afraid to shoot me an email or give me a call, or do another 8 to 10 Eastern Standard Time live show. Thank you guys so much. Have an absolutely wonderful day. I'll catch you later. Bye-bye.